Hello and welcome to another technical takedown the hard way. In today's video, we are going to be talking about cars. Yes, our favorite pastime. Guys, what exactly are we going to be talking about today about cars? Well, we're going to be talking about some of the differences in the vehicles that you see outside. A lot of you guys who live in urban environments, who live in cities, who live in westernized countries will see cars on the road, and you will probably make the assumption that all these cars that are four-wheel drives, that they're all the same thing, right? When they are not, okay? And we're going to go into some specifics today. We're going to talk about how these cars differ and why some of them are useful for overlanding and others are not. We're going to start with the normal four-wheel drives that you see out there on the street. Mercedes-Benz ML, I believe they call it the GL now, right? Or GLA, any of the G's except for the G-Wagon, okay, the G-Class, okay, the main G-Class, all the other four-wheel drive cars. It was called the ML actually when it first came out. If you remember, it came out way back in the late 1990s. It was featured in the movie Jurassic Park, the second installment, I believe, if I can remember. And it looked great. It looked great in the movie. It looked rugged. You know, they had stuck all these bars on it and big chunky tires, and they cut off the back so they could stick on, you know, harpoons and stuff and catch the dinosaurs. Great car. Great cars to look at. However, is it any good for overlanding? You need to look at some scenarios. You got to take a look at the people who buy the car in general, because the people who buy those cars in general, and looking at those people will tell you, give you some idea of whether the car is good off-road or not, or good for long-term overlanding. I'm talking about specifically long-term overlanding, okay? That's important that we clarify this, not just off-roading or, you know, rock crawling or whatever you do. With this car, most of the people that buy it are people that will go and take their children to school. They take their children to school, they go to do the shopping. There are a couple that have just had a child and they want to have a vehicle that rides kind of high and, you know, keeps them secure. So that's what you're going to get with those vehicles. And you know, it's no accident that those vehicles are being bought by these people, because they are sold primarily to these types of people. You know, your typical ABC1 professionals want a car like that, pay a mortgage, they want to pay it off in terms. You know, mass-produced vehicles for the average man or the average family. These vehicles are no good for us. Okay, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. Components. The components that these cars use in general are not built for long-term overlanding. They're not built to carry heavy materials, heavy weight over long distances, very long distances. I'm not talking about a couple of thousand miles. I'm talking about tens of thousands of miles, you know, in a couple of years. You know, they're not built for that type of thing. They are built to give more efficiency. So it's more on the efficient side. Okay, so the components are not as thick, they're not as sturdy, they're not as rugged, because they need to be more lighter, because the lighter they are, the less fuel the car burns. And you have to remember, fuel is really important. The efficiency of a car is really important. People are literally buying their cars based on how efficient, fuel efficient those cars are. So cars like that, cars like, I shouldn't say the BMW X5, but I'm going to have to say the BMW X5. Cars like the BMW X5, you know, for our journey, the Q7, by the way, guys, for our journey, these cars would be fine. But if you're trying to cross the Congo, these cars they're just, You know, if you get into trouble, you're going to get into real trouble, because no one's going to be able to fix it for hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. So if you put yourself in a position where you've got the wrong fuel in your car and, you know, the computer turns your engine off, what are you going to do? You have no internet, you have nothing. Yeah, it's a really crap situation. You don't really want to put yourself into that situation. Hence the reason why these people buy, overlanders tend to like cars like, you know, the old Land Cruisers, Patrols, those types of cars, because those cars tend to be built a lot more simple. You know, Hilux is probably the number one car in Africa. A Hilux, everyone has a Hilux. It's like the Toyota Camry in Nigeria. So just everyone, you know, anyone who is going to go off the beaten path will have a Hilux, because they are extremely dependable. Parts are very easy to come by, which is brilliant on the African continent. Yeah, the cars that don't have many, you know, the diesel engines won't shut down, because while it's computerized, you know, you won't have these types of problems, because the cars weren't built for the urban environment. They were built to cross literal continents. That's the main predominant reason why these cars have been engineered this way. In fact, they have been over-engineered, right? You've seen these van lifers with these vans that have all this teak wood in the back and stuff. I mean, that would be no good for us as well. Why? Because those vans tend to have small engines. They have small diesel engines. And those small diesel engines have to rev pretty high in order to get up some speed. So they have to be worked pretty hard, which means they generally tend to be less reliable. And also the wheels as well, clearly. Although you can raise a Sprinter van, you know. So that's not really any big reason. But, you know, the good thing about these vehicles, commercial vehicles, is that they have commercial grade components. And commercial grade components are always made extremely tough. So that's one thing we need to look at. We need to make sure that the car that we buy has commercial, you know, it's perhaps even better to look at cars that have more of commercial use or multiple uses. You know, commercial used vehicles generally tend to have sturdier components used, you know, so that those cars can be beaten and whipped a bit, and they just continue going. So yeah, picking a car is actually not as difficult as it seems. I was having a dilemma. I was looking at the Q7, the old Audi Q7. There's only two versions. I was looking at the old Audi Q7. And I thought, well, that would be great, because it's nice, it's big, it's long, it's got four-wheel, all-wheel drive. It has a quattro system, right? Which is all-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive. That's another video for another day, okay? There is a distinct difference between four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. We'll get to that another day. So that's another thing, by the way, guys. Yeah, we need to make sure, we don't need to make sure, because the journey we're going on, in general, we won't absolutely need to have four-wheel drive, but it's good for us to have it and not need it, or you know, it's better to have it and not need it, and not need it and not have it, you know. We need to look at it in that way as well. We want a car that does everything. We want a vehicle that will give us everything. Room, efficiency, good looks, good characteristics on bad roads, good characteristics on good roads, everything. And this is going to be difficult to find, because not many cars out there can do that, which is good, because it means it narrows down our options considerably. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be reviewing a few cars, so I'm looking forward to that. So keep watching this space, and yeah, you will be seeing a lot better videos soon as well, because I'm getting somebody in who's going to be helping me to edit some of these videos. So thank you, and I'll see you in